We're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good, man. Happy last Saturday before Texas plays football next weekend. I know you said a happy, first day of college football, but this is happy last Saturday before we actually see our Texas Longhorns running on the field next weekend. I know what we want to talk about this morning is probably a little bit about Quinn Ewers and his media availability yesterday. Maybe a little bit of high school football. And talk a little bit about what our season really
projections and predictions
are, man, going into this next Saturday. So, man, how you doing this Saturday?
I'm good, man. Like you said, fired up. As soon as we get off here, start watching, like I said, the first Saturday of college football. Probably tune in to Nebraska Northwestern. Probably watch a little bit of Wyoming. Probably step and watch USC Hawaii play Vanderbilt for a little bit. And I know we got South Oak Cliff playing Duncanville tonight. So I definitely stopped down for 3 or 4 hours to watch, Billy Walton, Malik Muhammad, and guys like Decorian Moore, who play for Duncanville, Colin Simmons, who plays for Duncanville. All these kids have Texas offers. Talking about Billy Walton, Malik Muhammad, Texas commits. So going to stop down and watch that one. But just like you, football is here. Attended Coppers Cove versus Georgetown last night. Got to hear some pads pop and feel that Texas high school atmosphere again. And I took a buddy, and he's like, "Hey, this is the first time I've ever seen anything like this," because he's from Miami. And I said, "Welcome to Texas high school football." It was rowdy and it was fun. It was it's all the pageantry that you get with Friday Night Lights, and just ready to talk ball, man.
Yeah, you were at the game last night. I actually decided to stay home last night, and I actually watched DeSoto and Trey Wisner and Jonte Cook play
St. Augustine.
Up at the Nike campus against St. Augustine out of New Orleans, Louisiana. First play from scrimmage on the offense side of the ball, Trey Wisner fumbled, but he came back and actually had a really, really nice football game. I know you'd asked me how he looked. He's tough, man. He's upright. He's an upright runner, man. He's long. Looks taller than what his 6 foot is, believe it or not. He actually looks taller on the field than what his 6 foot, what he shows as far as 6 foot goes. But he's tough, man. He's hard to bring down. He can see holes. And then Jonte Cook, one of the first pass plays from Bradley to the DeSoto quarterback, 70 yards to Jonte Cook, man. He just took off straight line speed down the field. The only thing that I can tell you that the coaches jump on him about is throwing the deuce sign up as he's running in. You can't do that in college football because, again, that's going to cost you a touchdown. So that's something that's definitely good with the bad. There's teaching moments. This is the first really game week for these guys. I think what was crazy is DeSoto wasn't using headsets because there really wasn't a press box, there at that stadium that really acts as their park when they're not playing football there. But and there were some other ones, man. I seen Jalen Hill do his thing. Cedric Baxter, I think, ran for 232 yards in his opening day game there in Florida. So some highlight moments from some guys that are committed to Texas. We just got to keep these guys in the fold, man, through recruiting.
Yeah, we'll get off high school real quick, but I had the link to the YouTube stream of DeSoto versus St. Augustine, and I texted Clint because I was in the parking lot of the high school stadium before I was about to go in, and I was like, these guys are playing in front of trees. Like, there didn't look like there was much fans there. It's difficult. Like I said, when you take a team from Louisiana, take a team from Texas, move them up to Oregon. I'm sure the kids had a great time looking at the Nike facility and all that had to offer. But kind of weird to transplant those teams and move them up to Oregon to play a football game in front of a bunch of beautiful big trees. But like you said, no press box, limited fans. But good football players playing football, and that's the time of year we have. Transitioning into high school, college, and the NFL to soon to be, and our favorite time of year, the fall.
Yeah. So kind of want to go back to let's talk about Quinn Ewers' media availability yesterday. Out of the 16 minutes that were available between him and Deshaun Jameson had about 6 minutes. Quinn Ewers took the other 10, and I think he was asked pretty good questions, but his answers were better than the questions that were actually asked of him. I know you called me yesterday, and you looked at it as him just being humble, him being excited. What I took away from it is he is where he is supposed to be. And that's the University of Texas, man. And you could tell this is home. And, obviously going up to Ohio State, leaving high school early, going up to Ohio State and having an opportunity to be in that quarterback room, which is very talented up there with a quarterback guru just like Steve Sarkisian and Ryan Day. He took something away from it, and I think that's important, regardless of where you're in life or where you're at. I think it's important to take something away from it, and that's where I'm. But I think it was just a blip on the radar, and I think he's exactly where he wants to be. I believe he feels at home, and he's always been a University of Texas guy, and he has an opportunity to lead them out on field September 3rd. Your thoughts, man, on the Quinn Ewers media availability?
Quite confidence. Like you said, I think he kind of said this when Sark named him the starter last week. He kind of went into practice with a little bit of relaxation, excitement. He described, just wanting to play, just ready to play a ball game, because he's not one. Again, somebody said he was shy. I think Jake Major said he was shy. Somebody asked him yesterday if he was an introvert, but he just seems to me like a very thoughtful kid, a very confident kid. He said, I don't get caught up in the buzz and the outside noise. I just want to play for my teammates. So he's saying all the right things, and we know what the arm talent is. I just walked away from there saying he has a quiet confidence about him that like you said, he's in the right place. He's with the right quarterback coach and head coach. He wants to play well. He's excited to be here at the University of Texas and just ready for the games to get started so he can show his talent and just play with his teammates. But like I said, when I called you, I listened to it right after it got published, and I was like, I really, really like Quinn Ewers. And then, like I said, it's just because of that body language. More than what he says, it's the way he goes about business. And I was, like you said, he credited Ohio State for his experience there, those 6 months that he spent with them. He said he learned a lot in his transition up there, and then transferring back down here, just where he wanted to be. And then folks, they asked him about his NIL deals with Wrangler and I think the bull riding, the gamblers, and all the sponsorships that he has. And he says we take care of that stuff in the summer, early summer. All that stuff is taped and then distributed later because I need to be available for my football team. That's my focus. That's what I want to do. And he understands without production, probably some of those things go away. But he just wanted to let it be known that, hey, all that stuff that you see currently was done a couple of months back and now released. But like I said, I walked away from that press conference being very, very impressed with Quinn Ewers, like I said, with the body language and what he had to say.
Yeah, he played at a big time program there in at South Lake Carroll. That's been a perennial high school program in the state of Texas. So it's already expected of you as a quarterback, as a sophomore going into to play for that school. And I think that's important that he's played at the college level, but he's played at a big time program where a lot was expected of him. And he may have he had to put a lot on his shoulders. And he was really, really successful as the quarterback there. But, they asked him, on the emotions of really with game day approaching, what is his emotions? He said, I'm excited. I'm not anxious, but excited. And again, he hasn't thrown an actual pass since his junior year in school. So obviously there's going to be some butterflies, but if there's no butterflies, then as a football player going out for the first time, there's no butterflies, then there would be concern for me. You know what I'm saying? Because where's your care level? Where's your care level at? But he said, hell, once the first play, but after that first play, it's just back to the basics, man. And it's just about getting the ball to your playmakers. Quinn Ewers doesn't have to be a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. He needs to be able to get the ball where it needs to go. He needs to be able to read the defense and get the ball where it needs to go, and then get the ball to your playmakers and allow them to make plays. And then he talked about, sharing a backfield with Bijan Robinson. Who wouldn't, as a quarterback, want to share the ball or share the backfield with Bijan Robinson when you can just turn around and hand it off to him in a situation where you don't feel comfortable that you're going to make the right read. At least give it to your back and let him get a couple of yards and move on to the next play. But to me, he doesn't need to be a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. I don't think the Texas fans should look at him as a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. I think he needs to get the playmakers to those guys that are on your All-American, on your preseason All-American teams, and let them make plays for you. And that's Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Jaleel Billingsley, Bijan Robinson, Tavian Sanders. The list goes on and on and on. And he just needs to be the guy that just dumps it out to them and let them make them plays, man.
And we've said that is know what the pre-snap read gives you, know who it gives you the best option to get the football to, and get it to them and let them do their thing. But yeah, like you said, and we'll get off Quinn Ewers, but that air of that quiet confidence that I talk about, yeah, like you said, there's going to be butterflies, but he said it. At the snap of the football, it's fundamentals. I understand the game plan. I love Sark's game plan. They asked him, his relationship with Sark, and he said he loves the fact that he takes shots. That he's looking for explosive plays, because that's Quinn Ewers knows that's what he does well. He drives the ball down the field with accuracy to guys that are open to make big plays. So I think it's a perfect, and perfect's probably not the right word because it'd be burnt orange glasses-esque. But I think you got the right kind of quarterback with the right kind of coordinator when you're pairing up Quinn Ewers and his talents and Steve Sarkisian's and his methodology of football and what he wants to do.
Yeah. Again, like you said, they're a perfect marriage. You know what I'm saying? That's why Steve Sarkisian went out, and when Quinn Ewers was in the transfer portal, he went and got his guy, which is a prototypical, pro type quarterback. You know what I'm saying? A throwing quarterback first, and have you use your feet. But guys that are able to make decisions and progress through reads and get the ball to where it needs to go. Really pre-snap versus what's happening after the ball has been snapped. Next topic you want to talk about, Jeremy?
You want to go through a couple of these projections, or
let's go. Go ahead.
Okay, go shoot.
Yeah, let's go through a couple of these projections. I know on some of the lives people have asked us what our projections are for the season, and we'll probably save our projections as far as wins and losses towards the end. But I think we need to start off on who do you have? Oh, actually, I'll go first.
Okay,
on this.
Let me jump in real quick, because that's why we had the chat, right? So we're going to try to go slow. We're going to alternate who goes first and who goes second, so that each one of us, again, we may have the same list, but at least, it's fair. Like, I don't go first every time with my 3 impact players, and then Clint's stuck, trying to think of his. He's got a list that he made. I didn't make a pre-list. But the reason for the chat and the reason for the show is for you guys to also give your projections, your thoughts, your predictions on how this 2022 season is going to unfold. So without further ado, hit it, brother.
Yeah, same thing in the comments, man. If you're listening to this after the live, give us comments, man. Tell us who, based on the kind of questions we're asking each other here. Give us your comments as well. So we'll go with the first one. The first one is 3 most impactful offensive players. All right, and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. Obviously, starting a brand new quarterback. That quarterback is obviously your offense is as good as your quarterback is, right? I said he didn't have to be perfect, but he's going to be my number 1 impact player. Is going to be Quinn Ewers this year. Number 2, I have Bijan Robinson. Number 3, believe it or not, is going to be a true freshman. He's going to be sitting out there at your left tackle position. He needs to protect Quinn Ewers. So my 3rd most impactful offensive player this year, not a skill guy, is going to be Kelvin Banks, because I think he needs to protect Quinn Ewers' blind side. And I think if he goes out there and plays to what they've seen during the fall, or during the summer to the fall, I think he has an opportunity to actually, get probably those freshman All-American honors. Your top.
So I kind of looked at it similar to you, impact on the team and how their success would lead to team success. And I just jotted it down real quick. It says Kelvin Banks, again, starting the left tackle, protecting, like you said, protecting the blind side of Quinn Ewers. But what it allows them to do is have that offensive line versatility. They can move Hayden Connor around, Cole Hudson around. Like I say, the loss of Junior Angulau hurts. But being able to start a guy like Kelvin Banks day one, as we thought they would do, after talking with some offensive linemen on the team, I think he's your number 1 impact player because of his production and need, and the ability to allow the line to be more versatile. My number 2 impact player, of course, the quarterback. He's going to touch the ball on every snap. He's going to make an impact on the team, and a positive impact. And we'll go into where we think his numbers are going lie at the end of the year, whether it be touchdowns, interceptions, yardage. But anytime you touch the football on every play, I got to list you as my top 3 impactful players on offense. And then my third is Tavian Sanders. For what I think he can bring to Quinn Ewers, and that's that security blanket, around the line of scrimmage within 10 yards. Again, he can bust big ones. We've seen his ability to break tackles. We understand the size that he possesses. I just want him on as many linebackers as I possibly can. Of course, if I had a 4th and 5th, Bijan, Xavier, all those guys. But I think if those 3 guys perform at the level that we need them to, and that's, again, you're starting a true freshman left tackle. You got a rookie quarterback out there and essentially a rookie tight end. If those guys can perform at the level that the coaching staff thinks they can coming out of fall camp, I think this offense will definitely shoot up the ranks. And again, they're already pretty prolific from last year. But be more consistent too.
Right. And I'm going to kind of interrupt these predictions as we go through and kind of answer some questions that may come with the current. So the question here is, Clint, what do you think this is? Think is respectable versus likely stat line versus pressure sacks for Banks in the Bama game and possibly the year? I'm going to probably put it a percentage, right? So let's say that I'd rather go year than Bama, right? Because again, you're going against probably what they were talking about this morning is maybe your Heisman Trophy winner in Will Anderson. But as far as pressure rate, pressures versus how many sacks given up, your left tackle is going to be pivotal. I'm thinking probably if you have 100 pressures, you're probably going to want less than, 6 or 7 sacks, which is really less than 10% of the pressures that are given to that left tackle. Do I think he's going to have some growing pains? Absolutely. But if he's your best left tackle out of all the guys on your offensive line, you got to let him play. And through that experience, he's going to get better, game after game after game after game. But as far as like pressures versus sacks, I would probably put it at, less than probably every time you get a pressure, probably 5%, less than probably 5% of those times you want to give up a sack. You're going to get pressures on the quarterback, but do you give your quarterback enough time to throw? I don't know what your thought process, Jeremy, because I'm looking at your face here about.
Yeah, because the question's the stat line for pressures and sacks. So generally in a football game, we talked about Texas snapping the football 66 times on offense, right? And we want to get them to 75. So the first thing I need to know is what's the snap count. The second thing I'm going to need to know is who's helping him out. Is it Kelvin Banks and a tight end? Is it Kelvin Banks and Roschon Johnson? Is it Kelvin Banks and a guard combo? Again, it's hard to, but I wrote 70 snaps, 5 pressures, and 1.5 sacks would be, I feel like would be a really good game for Kelvin Banks against Alabama as a true freshman. But again, I got to know a lot more than, hey, he's lining up on Will Anderson as a solo every single play to really be able to give you a decent projection on what his performance is going to be, because there's a lot that goes into that, in my opinion.
There is, but like in most cases, you're probably going to be there's going to be times where Kelvin Banks is going to be by himself on an island, right? Because you can't, because you need guys to run out, and you need a guy to push down and double team the nose tackle, and not so much worry about the defensive end. Depending on, it's game specific, right? It's game specific. If you think Kelvin Banks can go mano a mano on this defensive end versus ULM, which is probably going to happen a lot, right? And then all of a sudden in game 2, you got Alabama, where you're probably going to have him be chipped by Tavian Sanders and everybody else, to include the running back, to help out Kelvin Banks. To me, it's if you're sitting there one-on-one, not in double teams, if you're sitting there one-on-one and he's on an island versus a defensive end, that's really where that pressure or sack rate come, not really when I got a double team. By himself, mano a mano, just like a wide receiver on a corner.
Okay, yeah, but that's not how the question was asked, number one. And two, who is that defensive end? Who is the edge rusher? Again, like you said, if I can bring a guy off ULM off their depth chart and I lock him up with Kelvin Banks, then his pressure rate or sack rate is going to be pretty low. If he's lined up against Will Anderson, then there's a chance that the pressure rate is going to be high, and you hope the sack rate isn't that high. But if they're bringing in, let's just say another rush end that doesn't have the skill set of Will Anderson, and the dimensions of his game to be able to take advantage of a freshman like Kelvin Banks, then I would imagine that pressure rate, sack rate is going to be lower. I get the one-on-one matchups, but again, it's who's he one-on-one against.
Right, absolutely.
That matters.
That does
too.
matter. That matters. So if I was to say, okay, at the end of the year, we played 12 games, right? We played 12 games, and Kelvin Banks played all 12 of those games. I think anything less than probably 15 sacks over a season is pretty good. That's what I'm looking at. You said 1.5 versus Will Anderson
against Alabama.
Against Alabama.
I think that sack total will be down into high single digits, around 10.
10.
Because I think he's going to do very well in conference. But they're asking about a specific game, and I don't think you're going to keep Will Anderson off the board. But again, if you feel like if you're Alabama and you watch the ULM film and you feel like that he's a better left tackle than Christian Jones, where do you think Will Anderson's going to line up? He's going to line up on whoever they think is the weaker link, right? And so he may be stuck with if they feel like he's the better tackle, then he may end up with that second guy. And there's no bad football players on Alabama. It's perennial first team, All-American, second team All-American candidates, first team, second team SEC, and the list goes on and on. So again, whoever he matches up with is going to be a good football player from Alabama. But will they be the size speed combination Will Anderson? I don't know. How many times will they have Will Anderson lined up alongside Kelvin Banks or across from Kelvin Banks? I don't know, but that's why September 10th is going to come here very, very soon, and we're going to get to see. But yeah, I mean, we got kind of long-winded on that question, but I think he's going to play well. But again, like everybody's saying, there's going to be growing pains. What do those growing pains end up being statistics-wise at the end of a football game against the number one team in the country?
All right, we'll go to the second question, but I got some of y'all's questions up here, and I'm gonna be prepared to answer them. We're gonna go to the second question here. Points per game average, Jeremy. I'm gonna let you go first on this one, and I'll go first on the next one.
So last year was 35 points a game, and I don't see this offense taking a step back. I think the quarterback gives you, although younger than Casey Thompson, Hudson Card combination last year, I think he's going to throw for more touchdowns. You didn't lose anything in the running back room. The receiver group, even though with the loss of Nair, in my opinion, is deeper and has the potential to be more productive. And I think you upgraded the tight end room. It's all going to come down to this offensive line. I think they're going to be higher than the 36 points per game. I think it was 35 or 36 that we talked about the other day. I'm going to say they're pushing 40. I'm going to say 39 points per game for the offense.
All right, so I'm 1 point under you. I'm going to go with a field goal better than where we were at last year. I got us at 38 points per game. All right, so next question here.
How many? Be able to win a lot of football games.
Lots of football games.
Numbers up.
Depending on what your defense points per game is, and we'll talk about that here after we get through the offensive numbers here. How many touchdowns does Quinn Ewers throw for this year? So I'm going to this is a 2-for-1. How many yards does he throw for? I actually went for, he throws a touchdown for every 100 yards he throws. I went with 30 touchdowns this year. I went with 30 touchdowns. He throws for 3,100 yards. For every 100 yards, he throws one touchdown. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So 30 touchdowns, 3,100 yards.
Guess I'm a little higher on Mr. Ewers than you are, because I have 30. A couple of shows ago, I said 36. I think he can average 3 touchdowns per game. I had a talk with myself this morning. I didn't quite go that low or that much lower. I'm at 33 touchdown passes for Quinn Ewers. I'm at 3,600 yards for number 3 out of South Lake.
All right.
An average of I think he's going to put up 300 yards, an average of 300 yards per game. And I think he's just going to be slightly under 3 touchdowns per game. 33 touchdowns, 3,600 yards.
I would say that. So my idea behind the 3,100 yards is because you got a Bijan Robinson that's in the backfield. You're going to be able to lean on your horses that you have because you got more than Bijan Robinson. You got Roschon Johnson and so on and so forth. And Steve Sarkisian is a run first guy, right? So if he finds that he's really, really good in the run, he's not going to put up a whole bunch of yards. If you go back and look at last year, the numbers between rushing yards and passing yards weren't that far off. So I put Quinn Ewers, and it may be higher, but I went on the short side here at 3,100 yards over 12 games, puts you at about 260 yards per game, because I think you're going to rely on those horses you have in the backfield in Bijan Robinson or Roschon Johnson, because there's going to be some games where you're going to run the ball more versus passing it. So kind of where my thoughts are. All right, so let's get to these comments here. So I think Tyler Justice has it at about 41 points per game here. I'm not sure if that's touchdowns or 41 points per game.
I think it's 41 points per game.
Isaac Darden has us at 3 touchdowns per game, which would put him at about 36. About 36. Give me a Colt freshman year, 27-7, and Bijan going for over 1,600. We're going to talk about Bijan's numbers here in a minute. And Isaac Darden said, "I'm right here with you, Jeremy." So, all right. So let's talk about next one we have is on to Bijan. I'll let you go first on this one.
And I think his name was Dodge Ford, Texas. It's the first time I think I've seen him. He hit my Bijan number right on the head. I have 1,600 yards for Bijan Robinson. Again, I think he's going to be over 2,000 all-purpose. Again, you talked about Bijan being the bell cow, and that's why you believe that Quinn Ewers' touchdown numbers may be around that 31 number. The reason why I think they may be around 33 or higher is because Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. They love in red zone or just outside the red zone to toss to roll him out in motion, to find him on a linebacker or safety and throw the ball out there. And sometimes he's left uncovered or he's one broken tackle or missed tackle away from the end zone. So I have, like Dodge Texas Bear, 1,600 yards for Bijan Robinson.
All right, so I'm 100 more than you, but I'm a little bit,
okay.
I've taken, what was it? How many did you have for Quinn Ewers at throwing?
36.
36. So I'm at 3,100 and 30 touchdowns, 3,100. I actually have Bijan going over at around about 1,700. So I'm about 100, yards on this side of it. But I think it comes down to not just Bijan running the ball. It comes to Bijan throwing the ball or throwing the ball to Bijan as well. I think me and you both had him over, 2,100, 2,200. All-purpose yards, 2,200. Yep. And I think you had him probably 16-6 probably, and I have him right at about 17-5. So I have Bijan for 1,700 yards this year again because I think there's going to be a balance. I think you're going to lean on your running back with a true sophomore or redshirt freshman quarterback. I think Steve Sarkisian's going to every game trying to lean on those guys. So we'll kind of that is why I kind of have Quinn Ewers down a little bit lower on the yardage. Real quick here. All right, so we went through Quinn Ewers' touchdown in his yardage. How many interceptions will be okay for the season? I'll let you go ahead. You may answer this one first. You want to go ahead and answer this, Jeremy?
No, I could do it. Okay. 33 and 30. I've been a 1 interception per game guy. Since we started talking about him getting the starting job. So I'll be 33 touchdowns and 12 interceptions.
So I
think he has the potential to be lower than that, but I also think he has potential to be higher than that. But I'm going to stick with 1 per game and go with 12.
So I'm going to do pretty simple math here. I have him for 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So a 3-to-1 ratio works out really, really well for me. I think if he can throw 3 touchdowns to 1 interception, Clint would be high. Very, very happy because to me, that's less than 1 interception per game. We need to change the turnover margin this year. And the way we do that is to make sure we're not throwing interceptions and we're throwing a lot more touchdowns than interceptions. So I'm going to go 3-to-1, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions for Mr. Quinn Ewers. All right. Larry Trevino here has Bijan rushing for 1,800, but wouldn't surprise if he goes over 2,000 yards. Again, this gets into your numbers, right? 2,000 yards versus what your quarterback's throwing. So Larry Trevino believes that we're going to lean on Bijan quite a bit this year. Either that, we're scoring a whole bunch of points and putting up a whole bunch of yards.
Yeah, he's a lot of explosives because 200 carries at 10 yards per carry is not going to happen. You'd have to be up somewhere around 250 carries with I don't want to do math here, but I just think that's a heavy workload to get 2,000 yards, unless, like you say, you're busting off explosives unless you have like 60-yard runs, 70-yard runs pretty consistently in each game to kind of push that total up to over 2,000. But I mean, it's possible. But yeah, so Larry, I think it'd be tough to get 2,000.
Isaac Darden here got 12 to 15 interceptions for Quinn this year. Again, that's 1 interception per game. Obviously, you don't want multiple interceptions in a game. You don't want to turn the ball over like that. I can deal with 12. I can't deal with 15. 15 means you've turned over the ball multiple times in a game, and we need to definitely change that turnover margin. Isaac Darden also has Bijan hits 2,000 for sure with the passing game and opening things up. Glenn Keller talks about his numbers at South Lake Carroll here with interceptions. I was kind of surprised if you look at his high school numbers for a gunslinger label. He really didn't throw that many. Granted, college is different. Plus, he played with that South Lake Carroll. He was never under duress as a quarterback there at South Lake Carroll. If you go back and watch his film, he pretty much had a clean pocket probably 99% of the time. Plus, he had some really good receivers, but he put the ball where it needed to go. But we'll kind of see. Obviously, he said that they're only running 3 different coverages in high school. In college, they're running a combination of those 3 and stuff that you've never seen before. So obviously, his progressions, are going to change. The way he sees the football field has to change. And then him doing that game, the field study, the game film stuff, kind of learning these defensive tendencies is what's important. All right, so 20 carries per game, run the wheels off of him like you did last year, talking to Bijan Robinson. Jeremy, I know, all in on 25 touches, right? Touches total?
25 touches.
Touches for Bijan Robinson per game. Tavian Sanders going for 750 plus eight touchdowns. Actually, it's funny that you bring this up because one of our next question is who's the receiving yards leader this year? And the question after that is who leads in touchdowns? And believe it or not, Tavian Sanders was one of the guys I was looking at leading touchdowns this year because he's a mismatch nightmare in the red zone. And I think once you get around the 20-yard line, he becomes a matchup nightmare against safeties. If you put him on a slot nickel or a linebacker, he becomes a nightmare for those guys. But I think 750 yards is a lot for a tight end. I'm going to have to go the under 750 because I think you have Jordan Whittington. You have Xavier Worthy. I just can't see. I would see probably around the 500-yard mark is where I'd probably have Tavian Sanders. Maybe a little more.
Yeah, not going to disagree with anything you said. You said a lot there. You took Quinn, and I was just thinking about that. I think he's threw 70 touchdowns his sophomore year, and I know the interceptions were in single digits, and like you said, high school was different, a clean pocket, minimal coverages to have to adjust to. Of course, it's going to be different, but like you said, his accuracy and I think Tom Luganbill from ESPN had a good. He was talking about Malachi Nelson. He was talking about Arch Manning. He was talking about a third quarterback. I don't know if it was Nico or someone else, or it was Dante Moore, and describing the difference between arm talent and arm strength and what the difference is. And I think Quinn, with the underneath passes, puts just enough touch on him. With the routes going across the middle, puts enough air on him most times. And then we've seen his deep ball game. We understand that very well. So yeah, I think that potential to and I've talked about these receivers' ability to get open to where he's not going to have to fit a whole lot of balls in as long as he goes through his reads, finds the right guy. I think his accuracy will pay off. But Isaac and me are on the same numbers scale today, minus the Bijan. But yeah, I'm Bijan 25 or over 2,000 yards all purpose. Around 25 touches per game. Again, I got in trouble when I dropped the tweet a couple of weeks ago saying 25 carries, and folks came back and said that's too much. But my thought was, hey, he's so productive, and running back first in this offense, I think he's around that 25 number. And then I agree with you. I thought about Sanders as well because to me it's either Xavier Worthy or Jordan Whittington or Tavian Sanders is the reception touchdown guy. And I end up going with Tavian, only because I think Worthy's going to score touchdowns. He did it as a freshman, and I think his number's around 12. I don't know if he can hit that number again because of the depth of the receiving core. And I went ahead and threw my, wild card, and I'm going to go with Tavian Sanders as my receiving touchdowns leader for the University of Texas. And again, I think it's going to be like the sacks. I know we're going to talk about sacks here in a minute, who leads the team in sacks, and I think it's going to be committee. I think receiving touchdowns is kind of committee as well. But I'll get off the mic because I told you were long-winded, and then I talked for like 3 minutes.
No worries, man. So Isaac Darden here. I was Tavian Sanders here, man, and I'll give y'all my touchdown leader since Jeremy's kind of went there. I think he'll be more of a touchdown monster than a yardage monster. He'll also be crucial to the conversion of our downs. I truly believe that. It's where I see Tavian Sanders this year. He helps out Jordan Whittington on third downs, right? He was your third down guy, right? Your guy that Quinn Ewers is going to have to find on those crucial third downs, get the ball out of his hands. And I think Tavian Sanders is that guy along with Jordan Whittington this year. I actually went with, believe it or not, it was either Xavier Worthy, obviously Jordan Whittington, or Tavian Sanders. And I didn't pick Tavian Sanders, nor did I pick Xavier Worthy. I actually picked Jordan Whittington this year as having more touchdowns. If he stays healthy this year, he's like a running back when he catches the ball. His run after the catch is much different than Xavier Worthy. I think Xavier Worthy is more the big play guy down the field. Jordan Whittington can take that little crosser across the field, and it takes a couple of guys to get him down. I think if he's healthy, the way we see him right now, I think he has an opportunity to get quite a few touchdowns this year. I actually have him as my wide receiver with the most touchdowns this year. It goes to Jordan Whittington. All right, who's your receiving yards leader this year from the wide receiver room?
Worthy. And if I could touch about ball distribution and touchdown distribution real quick, I had 33 touchdowns for Quinn. Again, if those top four guys, let's go Whittington, Sanders, Worthy, and Robinson. I could seriously see them going, and this equals 30 or 29. It doesn't equal 33, so there's other touchdowns out there. But I could see two of them going for 8, one of them going for 7, another going for 6. Like I really believe that the depth of the receiving core and his ability out of the backfield to receive the football and make plays with it, I think it's going to be, you're not going to have a guy that's 12, 15 touchdowns and everybody else, the next guy is going to be like 4. I think it's going to be distributed pretty evenly around those numbers for those 4 guys. Specifically, if Nair was there, I would say it would even be the same way, but with 5 guys. I think he's got plenty of weapons to throw the ball to. I think they're going to use a lot of them towards the red zone, and we talked about their red zone efficiency. But for yardage, definitely with his game-busting ability, explosive playability, Xavier Worthy's my guy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy is who I have as obviously having the most yards because of his explosiveness on the outside and down the field. He would definitely lead in yards, but again, I have Jordan Whittington actually leading in touchdowns. Let's see what we got here in the comments. So in his sophomore year, he threw for 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They're talking about kind of going back to Quinn Ewers there as a junior.
But I think in his junior year, he threw for another 28. I think it was like 73 touchdowns. And I want to say it was 3 interceptions in his sophomore year and then like 8 in his junior year. So his numbers were like 70 and 11 or 70 and 10. Don't know specifically, but I know it's around that ratio. Crazy good, crazy numbers. And again, he forgoes senior year and went to Ohio State.
Steve Sexton has Bijan at 1,650 all-purpose yards, 1,350 rush yards, 300 receiving. I got to go a little higher than you here on Steve. I think we got you about 600 yards. So you're going to have to find 600 yards outside of what you have here.
Maybe he has Roschon playing a slightly larger role. Maybe the distribution is more not 25 touches for Bijan. It's more like 20 touches for Bijan, 10 for Roschon, and 5 for Jonathan Brooks. You could see that depending upon the distribution numbers. If they believe that they do want to keep the tires on, and again, this is probably Bijan's last year in the program, and that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean grind him into the ground, but you want him to reach his full potential. Because again, he's probably going to the draft next year. So, but to me, Steve's numbers are probably a larger share for Roschon Johnson than me and you were figuring in our head. That's my rationale for it. But Steve would have to come back and let us know.
I just like that Larry Trevino. He agrees with me. There's not very many people that kind of been on Jeremy's side today for whatever reason on the numbers. I agree with Clint. Whittington will be the leading receiver if he stays healthy, in my opinion. I think he's just he's a guy that is good in space, right? And that's where Steve Sarkisian wants to get guys, is to find that space. And I think Jordan Whittington is your guy to do that. Tyler Justice has Tavian Sanders' best tight end production since Jermichael Finley. Absolutely could see it. I could actually see at the end of the year, Tavian Sanders being in the conversation for the Mackey Award at the end of the year. But again, it depends on obviously utilization of Xavier Worthy, Bijan Robinson, Jordan Whittington. But I think he can put up those numbers. I think he can. If Steve Sarkisian finds a mismatch on the defense, he's going to go at it until they stop it. And Tavian Sanders can do that for you. I just don't know, because you have Jaleel Billingsley, who's another tight end that's also going to play a little bit out, further out from Tavian Sanders. But I think it's possible that he has a really good season.
Because that's the guy I didn't even mention when talking about touchdown distribution was Jaleel Billingsley. Like, he's going to factor in there too. I don't know. But he is definitely the most athletic tight end since Jermichael Finley, without a doubt. And probably Steve Sarkisian described it this week and said that he's probably going to make Xavier Worthy, Bijan Robinson, and somebody else mad. But Tavian Sanders has the best hands on the football team. We saw that at Denton Ryan. So he's definitely the most athletic tight end since Jermichael Finley. And I do think that athleticism will equal production and say yes to Tyler's question.
Same thing. Scott in Texas. There's just so much talent to spread the ball around. Numbers for top players maybe lower than expected, but more overall. Like Steve Sarkisian says, it's we before me, right? And team success becomes individual accolades. And so you may see that where they just spread the ball around. At Alabama, he had four top, top first round draft picks at wide receiver. And what are they doing out there playing paper, rock, scissors? Who gets the ball next? You would love to have a situation like that, right? And I don't care who gets the ball, as long as they take it, when they get the ball, they do what they need to get into the end zone. So you're gonna be spread all over the field. It's a good place to be. Jeremy's forgetting, hell, we forget somebody every time we do a show. We're talking about distribution here, and Jaleel Billingsley is somebody that we didn't bring up, not purposely. It's just you got a lot of guys out there that have ability to again. This is why I say Quinn Ewers doesn't have to be perfect this year, right? He doesn't have to be a Heisman Trophy candidate. What he needs to be able to do is disperse the ball to the guys to make the plays, because he has those skill players around him. What?
Yeah,
go ahead, Jeremy.
Just trying to remember the last national championship team, and I don't have statistics in front of me, but the national championship team that had Billy Pittman, it had Brian Carter, it had Lima Swede, David Thomas. None of those guys were any group that you would consider to be top level athletes, right? None of them were drafted really high, but they were highly productive and they were a threat. You go to the 2009 team with Shipley, Cosby. I don't remember who the tight end on that specific team was, but the depth at receiver, and his name is escaping me right now. He wore James Kirkendall. Guys like that, the receiver room was deep, and they all, and like I said, I don't have the season statistics in front of me for those groups, but it just seemed like whenever you needed to play, you had somebody you could trust, and it wasn't about numbers as much. Like I say, you didn't have a receiver that caught 15 touchdowns and the next guy was absolutely not productive. I think you have a group here of skill position players that are going to get open. They're going to find their matchups, pre-snap to figure out who has the most favorable matchup and get the ball in their hands. And I think it's a good thing that you're talking about yardage distribution, because again, it puts a defensive coordinator in a bind to say, hey, I can just stop Bijan and my game plan sewed up. Then I don't have to really worry about yours and these receivers out here beating me. With this offense, I think you have to worry about Bijan first, because if you don't have a heavy box and he's going to chew, depending upon the offensive line's production in the run game. If you don't have a heavy box, then they're just going to kill you a death by 1,000 cuts, walk the ball down the field. But if you do play a heavy box, then you got these guys outside one-on-one. You're talking about Whittington, who knows how to find space, Worthy, who could just beat you one-on-one every time, and then a guy like JT Sanders, who's a matchup nightmare in the middle. I think as many – how we talk about as many different scenarios, as many different alignments, as many different personnel groups as you could possibly have. I think a group like this allows you to do that. And I totally agree with whoever said that the the ball distribution is probably a good thing for this offense.
All right, Anthony Bailey, what percentage of snaps does Quinn take this year? If Quinn is not taking this, put it this way, if Quinn is not
95.
taking 95% of the snaps this year, something has gone wrong. We don't
non-garbage time.
Yeah, non-garbage time. Yeah, he's gonna take all the snaps. Now, obviously, ULM got an opportunity to get your quarterbacks in. Hopefully, you get to a point where you can play, get Malik Murphy some run at quarterback, in that game as well. And UTSA. Hope that you can get your guys in there as well. But if he's not taking 95% of the snaps this year, something has gone wrong. All right, let's move over to the defense side of the ball. All right. I named my 3 most impactful players on the defense side of the ball. On the offense side of the ball first. I'll let you go with the defense. Who are your 3 most impactful defensive players this year?
Murphy, Overshown, Cook.
All right, so I got them kind of numbered here. DeMarvion Overshown obviously is going to be my number 1 guy. Just the way they're going to be able to move him around with bringing in Tucker Dorsey. DeMarvion Overshown, I got Byron Murphy. Obviously, the interior pass rush, tackles for loss, and putting these offenses behind the chains. I think Byron Murphy will have a hand in doing that. And you said Anthony Cook. I went actually Ryan Watts. I need a cornerback that can shut down one side of the field. You know what I'm saying? If you can get a cornerback to follow around the team's best wide receiver and shut that receiver down for an entire game, it allows you to do more things on the defense side of the ball. So I actually went Ryan Watts because we need a shutdown corner that people are afraid to go after. You know what I'm saying? Like we're going into a game not wanting to throw at Ryan Watts.
Yeah. The rationale behind my choices was similar to yours. Again, I need a disruptor in the middle, and I think the person that gives me the best chance to get tackles for loss, to put interior pressure on the quarterback, and to possibly get sacks is Byron Murphy. So I think he'll be the most impactful interior rusher, and it just seems like the guys who play his position think that too. And then Overshown's ability to do whatever you need him to do, like you said, with Dorsey and Ford. Holding down those stand-up linebacker positions, it allows you to put DeMarvion on the edge, DeMarvion in the A and B gap, DeMarvion locked up with whoever stud running back needs to be covered coming out of like a Deuce Vaughn or something probably. Allows you to do that with them. And then the reason why I chose Cook was everybody you've heard, like Deshaun Jameson yesterday, Jaron Thompson a couple of days ago, is communication, right? So if we're playing press man coverage, one single high safety, and putting our guys on an island and expect them to cover, I need them to be in the right head. I need them to be in the right shade. I need them to understand, hey, you're the one that's got to help over the top. You don't type stuff. And I think Anthony Cook and his experience at both nickel and boundary corner and now going to that safety position allows him to align those guys correctly. And I think the talent is there to lock up, like you said, the same reason why you chose Watts is because you want a guy who's big and put hands and shuts down one side of the field. If his talent level can allow you to do that and then Cook's managing the other side, I think you're going to have a pretty successful season in the secondary. But I chose Anthony Cook because of that.
And I get it. Watts won't travel to the wide receivers. They'll flip cornerbacks depending on the short side, wide side of the field. I just need one. I need Watts to be able to shut down his side of the field. The meaning that whoever's on his side of the field, don't give him an opportunity to catch the football. Like, hey, when a quarterback goes into a football game and they say, okay, hey, an offensive coordinator looks at that side of the field, I need not throw it to that side of the field. Because, again, it opens up your defense and what you can do with those other defenders, really the defensive backs, bringing them closer to the box, helping you out with tackling, helping you against the run, which we gave up 5.2 yards per field. So regardless if they're flipping between wide receivers, I need Watts as my guy with the length that he has, with the size that he has to shut down that one side of the field. Next is points per game on defense, which last year I went in all in on Pete Witkowski, and I won't make that mistake again this year. He, over his last 10 years, he gave up 20 points per game. Definitely won't go there this year. Actually, right now, again, we have our offense scoring 38 points per game. I have our defense scoring 26 points or giving up 26 points per game, which will allow you, honestly, to be able to win a lot of football games. Like I said, if your defense is average to good over the season, you have an opportunity to have a higher ceiling than floor. So really this year really depends on not what our offense does, it's what our defense does. Because I think Steve Sarkisian is going to be able to scheme up enough plays to get you leads like you had in the first half. It's how do we finish those second halves to be a team that can play all 4 quarters. So I have it's 26 points per game. Give it up.
And I'm 28. I think there's going to be some improvement. Like you said, last year was 31 points per game. I think there's going to be a field goal improvement by the defense. Again, in the Big 12 conference, you can have a really good defense and still give up 28 points. It's when do you give up those points? Again, I just need both sides of the ball to be consistent for 4 quarters, to play complementary football, like to help each other out. I was 39 for offense. I'm 28 for defense. Again, I think there's going to be some improvement, and I would love to see that number get down to 26. I think there's potential to get down to 26. And if you're at 26, then like you said, you're going to win a lot of football games. You'll be closer to that high watermark of 10-2 than that floor of 5-7 or whoever has folks. Let's just say the ceiling's 10-2 and the floor is 6-6, and we're 8-4 right in the middle. I think if you bring that down to 26, you're closer to that 10-2, definitely than that 6-6.
Yeah. All right. So you talked a little bit about sacks leader earlier. And you said it's going to be, obviously, there's going to be quite a few guys that get sacks, and obviously our sack numbers need to improve. And I'll actually start first. How many sacks per game versus leaders? How many sacks per game do you currently, or not per game, but over the season, how many do you have us having? 12 games.
Last year, the number's 20. I've said on shows before, I think they could get to 36. I'm going to hedge that just a little bit and go with 32 sacks. I think 32 sacks in the season is again, I think there's potential to get up to 36, just like there's potential to only get 20 again. But I'm going to go with what I say, 32, somewhere in the middle, 32, 33.
All right, so I actually went with your 36 this year. And I think it depended on, obviously, ULM is going to should get you some big sack numbers. It should, right? And a couple of other games should get you some big sack numbers as well. It's where those other, not really where you're at the end of the year. I guess that's a bad question. But being, providing pressure both interior and from the outside each and every game is going to be absolutely important to this. So I'm going 36 sacks, 3 per game average. But those sacks matter in big time football games, not against the games you're supposed to win, but the games you're supposed to be in a dogfight with. That's where I really need to see that inside and outside pressure. So I'm actually going 3 sacks per game. That's 16. What'd you say? 20 last year is what we had?
Yeah, 20.
Golly, that's 16. That's almost doubling. That's almost doubling what we had last year.
You had 9 of those in 3 games. If you do Rice and Louisiana, it's 7. If you add Oklahoma, it's 9 of the 20 sacks were in 3 games. So yeah, there's got to be more production from in the, and like I said, I love sacks. I love what sacks allow you to do. It puts you behind the chains. It's a momentum changer. I just need consistent pressure on the quarterback, especially from the interior. I need pressure in the quarterback's face, get him off schedule. Same stuff we've been saying. And I forgot to tell you that Isaac actually sent me all of his numbers for this show, and I'm just regurgitating Isaac's numbers because every time I say something, he's in lockstep with me. So I appreciate your intellect, Isaac, and you sending me your information for the show so that I could just give it to you. But no, it sounds like me and him are lockstep on where this team's performance is going to be for the 2022 season. Well, and I know he watches the show a lot, so
I agree with that.
I really appreciate
that, Isaac. Not cool, man. I need you to agree with me at least once before the show's over, okay? All right. So you said it's going to be by committee, right? But I need one guy. I need one guy that's going to lead you. There's going to be one guy. Not everybody's going to have the same amount of sacks, right? Who is your sack leader on this team this year? You got to give me somebody.
Barron Sorrell.
All right, you went Barron Sorrell. I'm actually, believe it or not, going to go with the change here. Again, I think Doug Torsi is going to allow DeMarvion Overshone to create mismatches, allow DeMarvion Overshone to blitz from different areas of the field. And when he blitzes, he gets home, right? You can go back and look at that Oklahoma game. because of his speed and his length, it's hard for those quarterbacks to get away from him. DeMarvion Overshown is my sacks leader this year. I actually got him probably at around 8-9 sacks, which is a lot of sacks. That you're talking about Alabama numbers with their guys that they had, So I think 8.5, 9 sacks is possible for DeMarvion Overshown this year. But I can't go wrong with Aaron Sorrell either.
8.5 or 9.
Yep.
And what was your sack total for the team? It was 36?
36. Yeah.
Woo! You said you were not as high on Pete Kwiatkowski's defense, but you're 26 points a game, you're 36 sacks, and you got an individual player going for 9.
Yep, absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing.
I think what happens is they had to go into the season knowing they had to change their scheme and the way that they thought about things, right? And that press man coverage allows you to get to the quarterback a lot easier than if you're letting them dink and dunk down the damn field. An aggressive defense is going to be beat over the top in most cases. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with that as long as you're aggressive. If you're aggressive, and I think this defense is going from a dink and duck defense. I think Steve Sarkisian said, "I want my defense to be the same way as my offense is."
Yeah,
he didn't see that last year, and I think that they want to see, aggression. And I think the way that you do that is bringing a guy in like Tucker Dorsey that allows you to play that linebacker role, so you can move DeMarvion Overshown around, not just DeMarvion Overshown around, but where do you play Alfred Collins? You can play him on the end. I think there's so many things you could do with this defense. To be aggressive, and I think that's what you're going to see this year.
And Alfred was a guy in my committee. Alfred Collins and Moro Ojomo were guys in my committee that I think, when I say committee, I think there's going to be a group of guys who are around 5 sacks. Last year, you had a sack leader with 2.5 sacks. And again, Glenn Keller has 4 guys that Clint just dropped up here that have more than 2.5 sacks. Demo, Barron, Sorrell tied, so I guess me and you would tie in this situation, and then Ovia Gofu and Byron Murphy. But I think there's groups similar to the receivers. I think because what you're talking about, they're going to try to utilize their strengths against the opponent's weaknesses and go for explosive plays. Like you said, that's what playing press man allows you to do with the single high safety is you get another safety down the box. You have a heavy box, and then you strain the gaps, right? You shoot the gaps. You don't play bear hug the guard center combo as an interior lineman. You try to shoot the gap and get them off their game, allow them not to reach the second level because they're worried about you, right? They can't, because if they can't block you, they can't get to the linebacker. And so I think a lot of stunts, a lot of games are going to be played at the defensive line. Again, you're talking about Overshown being able to sit in that A gap, sit in that B gap. You're talking about moving them outside to that whatever tackles on weaker for the opposing team. And then again, you got a guy like Anthony Cook who, if Jaron Thompson's the single high safety and Anthony Cook's around the box, we know his potential to play around the line of scrimmage and to headhunt and get in the backfield and make plays. But yeah, I think it's going to be by committee, and I'm not disagreeing with your numbers. Just it kind of, when you said it, it's just like you remember that 2.5 was your sack leader last year, and it's got to be better.
Yeah. So Isaac Darden agreeing with me on this one. Yep. See, I'm right there with you, Clint. I love Demo. Lots of Demo on here. We got Demo here. Demo might get 6.5 sacks. Hey, 6.5 sacks would work for me too. Murphy from the interior, 6 sacks. If he's getting the 6 sacks from the interior, we've got the interior pressure that we definitely need to be able to push the quarterback outside the pocket to allow these other guys to do what they need to.
And I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Like you said, a lot of the sack numbers are probably going to be driven against the first game next week. Like, let's see how this defensive line comes out and performs against folks that we feel like may not be your level of competition. Let's take advantage of that. Let's put a lot of stuff on film. Let's let the defensive line eat. And I think you kind of politic for that Isaac Darden comment that he gave you after I said we'd agree with everything. And you said, you need to agree with me, Isaac. And then he agreed with you. But that's okay. That's what we do.
Larry Trevino, he's agreed with me a couple of times during this show, too. I'm with Clint.
I don't have
takes
the
a
comments.
huge step forward in year 2 under PK. I don't think they take a huge step forward. I want to go from really, really bad to average to good. That's all. I don't need to take a huge step forward. I don't need to be the best defense in the Big 12. What I need to do is be in the top 3 of the defenses in the Big 12. That's where we need to be at if we want to give ourselves an opportunity to win a Big 12 championship. Average to good is going to allow you to win more games than what you I'm not going to say what you won last year, but if you go back and look at, and I would love to see, I'm going to go back and do it because I want to do it for our next show, points per game in the first half versus what you allowed in the second half. Because if you go back and look at it, our points per that we allowed in the first half was a lot less than what we did in the second half. We need to learn how to be a second half team and play 4 quarters. And if we can do that, the defense is going to be good to average this year.
Can I do something real quick?
Yep.
Because there's 75 folks in here. There's 39 likes. This has been I feel like a really good show, really interactive for the 2022 season. If folks are in here, again, we took an hour before we even pubbed the channel. But if there are folks in here that aren't subscribed to Texas Football Talk and enjoy the content, please hit the subscribe button before you get out of here. We would really appreciate that. If you would like the video, again, we're going as the first, Power 5 football game kicks off, Northwestern versus Nebraska. We understand that, but when folks get off that game or stop doing what they're doing on the Saturday morning, we'd like for them to come in and watch this video. The way we understand it is YouTube moves our stuff to the top so the other folks can see it. If folks like the video, if folks are interactive and make comments, I think they even move it up the chain if folks dislike it. But we hope you don't dislike it. Please like the video. Please subscribe to Texas Football Talk if you're not a subscriber. We really, really would appreciate it. Again, 7 days away from Texas Longhorn football.
Sorry, I keep looking at my phone. I'm getting text messages. My wife is actually out. My daughter's trying to leave. I'm parked behind her, and she doesn't like to drive my 4Runner. So she can't leave until I'm done with this show. So I'm going to give y'all a few more minutes because if not, I'm going to hear from my 18-year-old and my wife when we get home. They always do this to me. I'm like musical chairs with my car, right? One needs to leave, I move it. The other one comes back, I have to move it back. Then another one needs to leave, and I move it back. So I'm like the only guy that doesn't park in the garage here. So sorry, I'm looking at my phone. It's just all kinds of text messages from all kinds of crazy people here. So, all right. So not that they're crazy. All right. Last two questions.
You got to take that back quick.
No, it's all right. They're not watching the show, so it's fine unless they're hearing me. All right. So who leads in interceptions this year? Who do you have?
It's a tough question, but I'll go with fall performance, and I'll say Deshaun Jameson. Again, we talked about his challenge numbers from opposing quarterbacks last year. He didn't have a whole lot of work, but it sounds like from his performance in fall ball that when he does get work, he makes plays happen. So I'll take the easy answer, the one I know for sure that has potential, and I've seen it before. I'll go with Deshaun Jameson.
I need Watts to shut down my part of the field, but I don't need him to be necessarily need him to have the interceptions. Actually, with Deshaun Jameson, fall ball, if he can show you, he's got the athleticism to get interceptions, right? He has the hands. He played wide receiver his freshman year. He's your punt returner. He has all the athletic ability to bring those balls down. So I think if he is able to do what he did in the fall and he carry it over to the season, I definitely think that it's going to be Jameson this year. And then Watts shuts down one side. You got another guy that's grabbing a whole bunch of interceptions and puts these offensive coordinators in a predicament of where they want to go with the ball. That's what I need. I need those two guys to do their job this year. And if they do their job, it allows your guys like Jaron Thompson or Keaton Crawford, depending on who's going to be playing that safety, Anthony Cook to be able to shift around. I don't want to forget about Jahdae Barron, who's I think is going to be a monster this year as well at that star position. So to me, again, the proof is in the pudding with this defense, but I think the defensive guys you have back there give you versatility. They they're able to obviously make a play on the ball. And then you have a long guy like Ryan Watson to be able to shut down the side of the field, man, because he can give you that man press coverage. And if he needs to do a bell technique, the quarterback still has to think about that stuff. So, all right, last one, man. We talked about turnovers the other day, right? We realized, holy shit, how did we get 15 fumbles, man? We had 15 fumbles. This is more on the defense side of the ball. How many turnovers at the end of the season does the defense produce?
I'll say right at a little over 2 per game. 2 would be 24. I'll say 27 turnovers. And I think that's what's necessary to get to that plus minus of 10 that you were talking about earlier. I think you got to get 27 balls going your way because I think, like I said, I think that Quinn interception number's around 10 to 12, and hopefully we don't put the ball on the ground 15 times this year. We put it on the ground 15 times. We're lucky enough to recover it 8 times last year, but I think 27 is the number for me.
I have us right at about 25, just over two a game. But again, if you're looking at Quinn numbers, 30 interceptions, I have him at 10 interceptions. So right now you're at a plus 15, but then you're talking about how many times you put it on the ground. Hopefully we fix that disaster of 15 fumbles last year, 8 in which the defense got, which is definitely not good. That'll definitely hurt that number right now. But from a turnover standpoint, I currently have us around 25 turnovers this year, which is a big improvement from last year. We just got to make sure that on the offensive side of the ball, we're holding on to it. So, all right. So we're not going to go game by game. We're not going to go game by game, but we're going to go off the play sheet that we currently have, and we're going to go ceiling versus floor versus where you think we'll be at, and what's the record that you need to have to get you to a Big 12 championship.
Ooh.
All right, I'll go first, right? I'll go first. Ceiling's 10-2. That's the ceiling for this team, 10-2. I'm going to say that we're closer to 8-4 than we are 9-3. I think the floor, and this will make some people sick here, is around 7-5. 7-5, so not too far from your 8-4. So I think your ceiling is I think you're more boom than you are bust this year. And I'm going to say that in order for you to get to a Big 12 championship, I'm going to say you probably have to be 9-3. The thing about this Big 12 right now, it's wide open between Oklahoma, Baylor, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State. The list goes on and on and on. I think most teams. You'll see. Teams like Oklahoma is bringing a new coaching staff is going to lose probably more than one game in the Big 12. And I think you're probably going to see some kind of who beat who at the end of the year to see who gets to that Big 12 championship. If you go look at game day today, hell, they picked Baylor to be in the Big 12 championship outside of Lee Corso, who has Texas playing Oklahoma and then beating them for the Big 12 championship. So everybody's thoughts is Baylor's the team to beat. And you can look at that in the AP poll and see that. You have 3 guys that are I think in the AP poll, you have 3 teams that are currently sitting 9, 10, 11, if I'm not mistaken, or 8, 9, and 10 somewhere. I think 8, 9, 11. And we're not there yet. But I think 9-3, 8-4 is where I'm at. 9-3 gets you to a Big 12 championship, and then gives you an opportunity to win almost 11 games if you go into a Big 12 championship and your bowl game. Yeah,
I would say the team's more boom than bust, like you did. I would say the ceiling's 10-2. My projection is 8-4. The floor would be 6-6, and then I think like you, 9-3 will get you a chance to play in the Big 12 championship game. And I wrote win the right ones, meaning you got to win the right ones to set yourself up for a tiebreaker. You cannot lose games to Kansas. You can't lose games to Texas Tech. You can't lose games. In order to get to that 9-3 mark, I think you have to win all those games. And then you can take a loss to Baylor if that's everybody's dog they think's going to be there. You just got to beat Oklahoma. You're going to have to beat if it's those 3 teams vying for it, and you're going to have to find a way to beat Oklahoma State and Stillwater to give yourself a chance to be that second or possibly first team. Again, if it's as wide open as people think, you may have that first seed if you win the right ones. Again, because I think it's going to come back down to a tiebreaker this year to find yourself in that Big 12 championship game, no doubt.
Yeah, I just think the 8-4 coming off a 5-7 season with the team being as young as what it is. To me, it's all about progression. Do you see progression from last year to this year? Because Clint would be A-okay with an 8-4 season because of what the trajectory of the program is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To me, it's all about progression. It's not all about, okay, we go from 5-7 to winning a damn Big 12 championship this year, right? Coming from a 5-7 and 5-7 season and win the Big 12 championship. Obviously, that's what the goals and aspirations are of the team. That's what the goals and aspirations are of the fans, right? But to me, 8-4, 3-game change, really a 3-game, change from where you were at last year with as young as this team is and the turnover that you've had and trying to building a culture, to me, that's where Steve Sarkisian really starts setting the bar, right? Is at that 8-4, and then you start looking at 9-3. Then you start looking at, okay, now we're starting to play like a 10-win team, and then now you're moving into the SEC in year 2, year 3 of Steve Sarkisian, and then you've got your guys that you want on your football team, and now you've built your culture, a winning culture at that.
And I think everybody that's commenting here sees the same thing. I agree with you, but mine and yours was pretty much exactly the same. I think you had 7-5 as the floor. I had 6-6. Jay here, floor is 6, ceiling is 10. Team could either be damn good or pretty poor. Again, you got a lot of freshmen, you got a lot of unknowns. The defense didn't perform well last year, so I think somebody down a little bit lower said it's all going to come down to Quinn and the defense, how he acclimates to college football. If he does exactly what we said earlier, gets those balls to his playmaker and just drives the bus initially to not get us in any trouble, and then you gotta have improvement on the defensive side. And again, I think they're trending more boom than bust. I think their potential to get to 10 is greater than their potential to flatten out again and be where they were last year. I just think there was too much growth in too many different positions, both offensively and defensively, to repeat what you saw last year. And again, I think a second year in Pete Kwiatkowski's system, them understanding the system, him understanding how to better utilize them, the addition of Gary Patterson, a lot of things that we've talked about over the last couple of months is going to allow them to get closer to that 10 wins than to remain in that 5-6 win category.
Steve Sarkisian said it, man. He was one of the best offseason pickups there is, outside of some of the guys that got in the transfer portal. And that tells you that tells you what he's doing for Steve Sarkisian. You know what I'm saying? Gary Patterson's going to play a big role in this team this year, and he's already done it. You know, through spring, through fall, or through spring, through summer, through fall, and he's going to be doing the same thing through this season, man. Really good show, man. Me and Jeremy just wanted to put out some content here on Saturday morning. Our regularly scheduled programming will begin next year. I think me and Jeremy are next week. Me and Jeremy are trying to figure out if we're going to do a Monday or Tuesday. If we're going to do a Steve Sarkisian afterwards. Hell, we might. I'm kind of leaving it flexible now. We may do a Monday and a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday. Be flexible with this. I know Monday, Thursday, and Saturday is doable, but we also, I think, want to talk about the media availability for some of the players, maybe on a Tuesday, so it may be a short show. So maybe all these shows may not be an hour long, but at least we get on you for 30 minutes, kind of talk a little bit, answer some questions about the week. But starting Thursday of next week, we'll do our pregame of obviously Louisiana Monroe and Texas. And then Jeremy will have the live chat up and going on Saturday, probably about 5-ish, believe it or not. Y'all don't beat me up on this, but I'll actually be in Orlando, Florida next week. And I'll be watching that ULM game from a hotel room. So you'll get a post game from a hotel room in Orlando, Florida next week. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, so that's exactly the timeline. So 2 hours before kick is generally when we'll open the game chat up for every game except Oklahoma and Alabama, and everybody knows what's coming with those. It'll be probably 15 minutes prior to kick, and then we'll have the cameras and the microphones on, have the game in the background. I'm going to get a new TV today. Going to get a little bit bigger TV back there. Going to change this up a little bit. But, yeah, it'll open up at 5. And, again, that's for members only. So if you're not a member of the Inner Circle and you're in here and you're interested in being a part of those in-game chats, please join the Inner Circle. Find the join button within the video or hit us up and let us know that you'd like to be a member because those are all going to be members only. It's our way to be more intimate with those guys, but at the same time, kind of keep those other fan bases who like to jump in on game day out. So please become a member of the Inner Circle if you'd like to attend those in-game chats. But, yeah, and then post-game show. Post-game show is going to be live this year. We know that. We generally pop on 15 minutes after the kickoff, just enough time to set up the studio, look at a quick stat sheet, try to remember, talk to each other, try to remember exactly when went on in the game, and then get after it. So, yeah, that starts next Saturday. And like you said, Thursday's pregame show, really just an assessment of ULM. Something like this, hey, this is what we see in their run defense. This is what we see in their pass defense. What do you think Quinn could do? What do you think Bijan could do? What do you think X can do? And try to – again, it's the first game of the season, so you don't have anything to really study from them other than last season. But then flip it around, right? So this is what their offense does well. This is what we think the potential is for the defense. This is what they do well, what we might need to counter. That's more the Thursday show. And then Monday, like you said, is a post media availability for Coach Sarkisian. Monday, they're going to drop the depth chart, so we might go. I think we did a pretty good job of projecting that in one of last week's shows. If you haven't watched that, watch that. We go through the two deep on both my perspective and his perspective. So the Monday show is going to be Steve Sarkisian, plus this Monday we'll probably have a lot of depth chart talk in it too.
All right, so last question of the day. Good job, guys, by the way. Who is older? Jeremy was born in January of 77. I was born in April of 79. So there's your answer. Jeremy is the oldest of the two. All right, so we appreciate y'all listening on this Saturday. Hey, we're going to get to football, man. We're going to watch this Nebraska Northwestern. Y'all been giving us some play-by-play on here. We're going to watch that. Don't forget tonight, Sauk versus Duncanville on ESPN2. Malik Muhammad, Billy Walton. There's going to be a whole bunch of guys out there today playing for them.
Moore, Colin Simmons.
24, 25 guys from both Duncanville and South Oak Cliff. So that starts at 7 o'clock tonight on ESPN2. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I do want to throw this one up real quick. Do y'all grill or smoke? We watch too much football on Saturday to be able to man a smoker. That thing, I got to start it too early in the morning. And I'm drinking coffee and getting game day prepped and doing all that stuff. So definitely a grill, fast on, fast off, put it on a plate and get back in and watch ball. And I do have a TV outside, but it's accessible by my grill, but not by my smoker. My smoker's further out in the yard and I can't see the TV, so I can grill and watch the games and all that stuff. So for me, Saturdays in the fall, it's grilling. Your thoughts? I think you're
grill. I don't have time. Like smoking is not a thing for me on Saturdays. You wish you could smoke more, but it's not the case. Me and Jeremy, from the time we get up in the morning, hell, I start doing homework at like 6 o'clock on Saturday mornings because I want to get a couple of hours of homework done. For those who don't know, I'm in school, so I try to get a couple of hours of homework done because I know I'm not going to get anything else done for the rest of the day because it's all college football, till I go to bed at nighttime. So definitely grilling.
Yeah, Garland Isles, I assume. Garland, Lakeview, Centennial, South Garland, North Mesquite, Skeeters. Yeah, that was our district back in the day. And then we'd probably play out of district. We played Lancaster a little bit. We went to Mansfield. Mansfield was also in our district. So, yeah, if you were at DeSoto between 92 or 95, there's a chance we probably played against each other.
All right. We appreciate you listening as always. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at Texas Football Talk. We appreciate you listening as always. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and please hit that like button and comment your thoughts on this live show in the comments. We appreciate you listening as always, and hook 'em.